Hello, good morning. Good morning, my amazing women. I just have been getting a lot of downloads on something, so I wanted to pop in here and share it with you. I have been talking to some of you, and really the most amazing women have been stepping in to Beauty Unleashed. And I asked a young woman a question yesterday. I asked her if she'd ever had, I'm in the woods, by the way. I came out here and had like a full on tribal dance in this like 40-degree weather. I asked this young woman if she had ever had a full body orgasm, and she said, "Yeah, I think so." And I know that she hasn't, right? Because I can read her voice, I can read her field, I can read her energy. So, anyway, so she says yes, and what she told me that she thought it was, and I thought this was really important for me to understand what people think it is, because I know I've mentioned full body orgasms before, but anyway, so what she thought it was like when you have basically like an orgasm through having sex, and it sends your body into like the quivers and the shakes. And that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about full body orgasm. I'm just walking through the woods, so the lighting is kind of weird. So that's not what I'm talking about when I talk about a full body orgasm. That's probably like when that happens, I would say it's that energetic pathways in the body are trying to open to one day make room for that full body orgasm, and it's probably like 1,000 steps before. Okay, and I know most of us, if we're not totally blocked having orgasms, if you're not, then you've probably had an experience like that if you've been with a really intimate beloved, where you just your body goes into shaking and quivering and all of that, right? But when I talk about a full body orgasm, I'm actually talking about something that doesn't necessarily even open through sex. I can open it by myself without touching my genitals at all, just through movement and breath. So, and then it's a state of ecstasy. So it's a state of full body ecstasy. And the best way that I've been able to describe it, there's like a man behind me with a dog, is like basically every inch of your body is a vagina, and it's opening and into bliss and ecstasy and union with the divine. So, so here's the thing: you don't need anyone or anything to get there. You just literally need breath and movement and a self-pleasure practice and the willingness to let go, right? It's ultimately this dance of surrender and releasing the thought that there's anywhere to get to. Hey, that there's anywhere to get to. I'm gonna let these guys pass me by before I keep going here. So hang on just a second, you guys. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go by. Hey, hi. So yeah, the biggest thing is really that release of there's anywhere to get to, and relaxing into a breath practice, into a movement practice, and into a self-pleasure practice. So releasing the thought that you need to arrive at an orgasm is the main key ingredient that'll unlock the movement, the breath, and the self-pleasuring to be able to arrive you at a place where you can have a full body orgasm. So full body orgasm is like it's like literally every cell of your body is opening into ecstasy, and it's kind of like and it's like it's so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming that it continues literally moment to moment surrender, moment to moment yes, moment to moment opening to how much good can I receive? Am I willing to receive this good? Yeah. And hey, good morning. So, and it can last. It can last for a long time. I'm sure it can last much longer than I've experienced it. The longest I've been able to experience it is like an hour and a half, I think, ish. I don't know, but and that was really challenging, right? It was a constant, like, okay, like, is this okay? Is everything, like, my mind wanted to, like, is everything okay? Do I have to do something? Like, does something need attending? Does something need my attention? No, come back. Bring it here. Stay with the breath. Like, stay here. Stay here. Receive more good. How much good can you receive? And just being in, like, this full bliss, ecstatic union with the divine, and, like, how much good So ultimately, why do we want to have full body orgasms? Is because it is a gateway to opening to more good. Like, how good can you stand it? Really, how good can you stand it? How good can you stand the abundance in your life? How good can you stand the intimacy in your life? How good can you stand your creativity, your sense of purpose, all of these things, right? So, and I just had somebody else ask me about this. She's interviewing me, and she was saying, like, I know you've talked about full body orgasm, so, like, what are you really talking about? Because it's interesting. Sometimes when I say it, people think they know what I'm talking about. And so I just wanted to tell you what it is, which is, it has nothing to do with sex. It really, like, originates kind of like in the pelvis, but not in the genitals. It's like a flood of, it's like a river, a gushing river through the pelvis, and then it also opens in the heart space. So then the heart, it's like you're having an orgasm in your heart, which you may have experienced if you've been with like a soul love. So it's having an orgasm in your heart, having a gushing river through your pelvis, and then they are somehow merging, and you are opening to more bliss and more, hey Marita, and more pleasure and more receiving. It's really, really the access to receiving, and that's why I say, how good can you stand it, right? So if you just joined, you can go back to the beginning and watch what a full body orgasm is not, which is what I think most people think it is when I talk about it. And yeah, I remember, if you guys watched the interview from the sexual healing series with Eyal, there was a moment where I was sharing something with him, and he said, it was funny, right? I said something to him about like the oming practice and what it's like when my husband and I practice that. And he said, oh, I don't think that you can count yourself like most women. Like, most women aren't like you. And I kind of laughed at the time, but it's actually stayed with me quite a bit, where it's like, I don't agree, right? The only difference is that my body is more activated because I have spent more years breathing, moving, doing activations and practices to run more energy, and to run more energy with more ease and more grace, right? So I definitely don't think that any of us has a lockdown on it, but it does take consistent practice. So if you don't have a movement practice that is linked with breath, and I'm not just talking about yoga, like yoga is a great, if you've had trauma, especially, yoga is a great place to start releasing some of that trauma so that you can experience the pleasure that I'm talking about, because otherwise it can feel so threatening and foreign and impossible, right? I love yoga, definitely a yogini at heart. And, the asana practice, it opens the body, but it is a still relatively linear practice. So I'm talking about something that has circular movements and tribal movements that are synced with breath, with activating breath, like breathing in through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth. So it's like, even when you teach Nia, Ashley, if you could bring in some specific activating breath work. I don't remember if Nia has its own breath work, actually. But if it doesn't, like breathing in and out and maintaining that breath throughout the whole time can sort of like activate these pathways, so that, and it's the long game. I just want to say, like, don't get frustrated with yourself. This isn't something you're going to most likely practice for a week and then voila, I'm in ecstasy. But I tell you what, I think like the first time I really had one was probably, hello, good morning, excuse me, was probably 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And it was like, I was just dancing in the living room, and I was like, oh, whoa. And I shut it down after about like 4 or 5 minutes, because I didn't understand the psychology of it, and it took years. So it was about like 2.5, 3 years ago then, when I was able to have like an hour and a half sustained experience of ecstasy. So I say this to say, the journey is incredibly pleasurable and not without fruits. So don't worry about that. But just wanted to tell you what it is and how you can practice on your own to get there, and move your hips, move your body, have a self-pleasure practice. And if you have trauma and you haven't worked it in therapy, you need to. And yoga also helps. So it's, really coming at it from all directions. Sometimes I think we forget how important just therapeutic support can be, just to sit and talk to someone. Those things can, when you have that, even if you haven't had trauma, if there's just been massive disconnection, going to therapy can just sort of hold a steady line for you as you allow yourself to go to these uncomfortable places. So even when I work with people in my programs, sometimes I tell them, like, I need you to be in therapy in addition to working with me because I don't want to be your therapist. And I have some of that training. Like I've sat a lot, more hours than someone sits for a licensing exam in California, but I'm not a therapist. Like, I didn't want to be a therapist. So, so yeah, just wanted to drop all this. Let me know what you're understanding, if anything is opening up for you. I'm just dreaming like all the additional content that's going to be pulled into this year's Beauty Unleashed. It's like, you know, every year I get to make it better. This year we have 2 retreats instead of 1, and it just keeps adding and adding and adding. So I'm dreaming as you guys are letting me know what you need and what your questions are, and I'm sending you all my love from the woods here. I literally just kind of have been up since 4, downloading stuff. I could not sleep, and then. Anyway, I had to come out into the woods a little bit before my assistant arrives and get to make myself up for this video stuff and get going. Anyway, have a beautiful day, loves. Bye-bye.